Welcome to Cohesive Friendship Unit. My name is Chris. I'm here with Jeremy.
What's up?
And Brian.
What's going on?
Guys, Miyamoto might have had a little too much to drink because at Nintendo's 79th annual general meeting of shareholders, say that 5 times fast, our boy Miyamoto gets up on the stage in a drunken stupor and claims they're going to revolutionize the controllers. And he basically says this, in fact he does say this, quote, "I also believe that we should quickly graduate from the current controller, and we are attempting all kinds of things. Our objective is to achieve an interface that surpasses the current controller, where what the player does is directly reflected on screen, and our user can clearly feel the result. This has not been achieved yet. We have tried all kinds of motion controllers, but none seem to work for all people. As the company that knows the most about controllers, we have been striving to create a controller that can be used with ease and that will become the standard for the next generation." So they kind of talked about next gen a little bit, but we're going to talk about this whole quote. We're going to break it down, talk about what we think. Real quick, we are doing a giveaway. At 700 subs, we are giving away a copy of Ukulele. All you have to do is be subscribed. That number is kind of close to being hit. So if you're watching this video and that number's been hit, check out our channel page. That pinned video at the top is almost always a giveaway announcement. So we'll probably have another giveaway announced there. And usually all you have to do is be subscribed. So we would really appreciate that support. Alright guys, so Nintendo, our boys, they've got a track record with controllers. And they're...
So can we just first address the claim that as the company that knows the most about controllers, I would argue that they don't.
That would be a fair argument.
Well, they know a lot about controllers.
They know a lot
about how not to make a controller. I
would agree with that.
They've thrown a lot of curveballs that have kind of worked out for them, but
how many good controllers has Nintendo made?
The GameCube controller was not that bad.
Let's start at the NES.
Well, the original
NES is good because of the D-pad.
NES is classic and it's intuitive and it's fantastic.
It's good because of the D-pad. They popularized the D-pad.
Right.
The Super Nintendo controller also very solid.
That's fine.
The Virtual Boy is an interesting decision. It's basically...
But it's a failure console, so you can't really count that as anything because almost nobody had them.
Yeah, it uses...
I don't even count that.
It uses twin D-pads, which is... where we would think of twin joysticks, it uses twin D-pads. So,
yeah, but it was, 1990?
1994 or something. Anyways, N64, we have... That's a controller, for sure.
Terrible.
If you know how it works, it's okay, but...
Again, popularized the analog stick. So for that alone...
but
in an almost useless way. The analog stick on that thing, A, sucks, and B, is not even used that much. It was thrown on there, but...
When there's a whole industry, a very small one on eBay, but when there's a whole industry focused around fixing your design flaws from 25 years ago, you got a problem with it.
But much like the NES controller, at least they did something that basically became the new norm. Anyways, GameCube, I think we all agree, is solid.
I think the worst thing you could say about it was inoffensive.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It works better than it looks like it would work, but
I'll give you that. Then here we go. You buckle up, boys.
Here we go.
You got your Wiimote.
Terrible.
Best controller of all time. That's a piece of work.
Useless now, literally. Can you even play Wii games with that thing anymore? I mean, you have to, but are they any fun? The answer is no.
The biggest plus I'll give on the Wiimote and nunchuck combo is it is symmetric, which is kind of neat. Lefties,
it was a bold attempt.
Lefties love it.
And for the time, though, you got to remember that was the Wii's thing, and for a while, Wii's were impossible to get because nobody else had that. It hasn't aged well, but for its time, it was really quite a thing.
But this is
It was stupid at the time, but everyone was just like, "Ooh, this is new," and marketing exists.
It was new.
It was always stupid.
It was stupid, but it was the first thing of that type, like motion control of that type, that was actually like, I know 6-axis beat it, but like the Wii was all about that, and they sold millions upon millions.
It had
of
Wii
those
Sports,
things
dude.
based on that controller. Like, it was a good play for the time. It has not aged well at all.
But this is an example where the NES introduced the D-pad and the industry basically adopted it unanimously still to this day, and the N64 introduced the joystick, which again was adopted unanimously to this day.
The Atari fucking 2600.
Yeah, I'm not buying that argument, Chris.
No, they standardized. Let me put it this way:
the original Sony
did.
PlayStation had a joystick.
Yeah, no, the PlayStation is what
PlayStation
popularized
did
the
not.
joystick.
No, the PlayStation did not have a DualShock, or they didn't.
Not
have,
the original one had one joystick.
No, it didn't. It had
No,
a
it
D-pad.
did. It had a D-pad, but then they released the not the DualShock, but they released like a version
No, it was
of
the DualShock.
Oh, okay, that was what popularized it. Twin joysticks that actually worked.
Well, so I'll give Sony credit for popularizing twin joysticks, but
Which is the only way that it's relevant.
I'll say Sony looked at Nintendo's joystick and they said, we need this. In any event, the Wii is the first, or a prime example of where Nintendo is like, we're gonna revolutionize shit, and it's gonna become industry standard. And while that happened in a spark, it is not.
It didn't. Though.
Did.
And we're all playing our PlayStation moves down to this day.
The successor console was a failure.
I'm using my Kinect right now.
They stopped. No. Yeah, well, I'm not saying that the Kinect was any good. I'm not saying that anybody has done any better.
No,
it
but
was
what I'm saying is
everyone's done better.
First generation things, but like still kind of shit.
This was not like this was Nintendo saying we're gonna revolutionize things, and it did not happen that time. Wii U, another
even worse.
that is rock bottom. That is
a controller so bad that it still gets a system.
That is oof right there in a word.
And yet you still bought one.
Well, I wanted Zelda,
Smash.
which I got on this. But yeah, then that rounds us off to the Switch, which the Joy-Cons.
Also horrible.
Joy-Cons, I am probably the biggest fan in this conversation of the three of us.
If it's attached to the thing, it works fine. If it's taken off of the thing, it's fucking rubbish.
I think
No, they're bad on the thing too. They're
in
just
the
bad.
context, it's a good way to get all the buttons in a portable form. I'm gonna stick by that.
If you're looking at it in terms of just putting all of the buttons onto one device and getting them all to work, yeah. But something to use, it's awful. If you have normal sized hands, you can't do it.
But look,
I refuse to use them.
Look at the Vita, look at the PSP, look at the Nintendo 3DS and DS. None of those had all the buttons. This one has all the buttons.
They have almost the same number of buttons.
No, like the Vita only has one set of R and L instead of the two. There's a few buttons that are just absent.
There's buttons that you had to duplicate because the things are detachable and they have to have the same number of buttons when they're detached. Like, you know,
and I give the Joy-Con credit for that.
No,
it's jack of all trades, master.
You give it too much credit
I do,
for it.
I do.
You should
no, they belong in the garbage.
But then they have this super awesome Pro controller. Which
whoever designed the Joy-Con should go to the gulag.
Sell more shit. You just bought a system. Now buy a controller.
But Jeremy really likes the
without getting carpal tunnel.
The Pro Controller is good, but the Pro Controller is a slightly worse version of the Xbox One controller.
The Pro Controller is a fucking GameCube controller with both the sticks the same size.
No, it's really just an Xbox One controller. It really is. It has a slightly different curve, and the plastic is see-through because it's Nintendo, and that's the only difference.
No analog
CPU
triggers.
is cool, man. I had a CPU Game Boy.
They're not analog. They're digital.
Okay.
But
I don't care.
Well, that brings us to this quote. So here we are, Miyamoto. He says, "Look, guys, we're in a good place. We got this Pro controller. We got all the buttons on a portable thing. Let's just fuck it up, right? Maybe I'm reading too deep into this, but like, do not go back to whatever the fuck was happening in the Wii era of consoles, the Wii and the Wii U. Please do not mess this up. And I think they're going to. I think we're in a happy medium with Nintendo where they're not completely unhinged right now. And they're saying shit like this makes me worried.
Yeah, they're kind of like, the Switch was kind of a warning sign of this. Like, it pushed the boundaries quite a bit and it worked, but like, you can only push people so far, i.e. the fucking Virtual Boy. Like,
well, the Switch is the first time since the GameCube that we've gotten all the standard buttons on a controller. Because the Wii U, well, yes, one of the controllers had all the standard buttons.
Awesome.
It only supported one gamepad. So
Amazing.
if you wanted to play multiplayer games, you had to use Wiimotes and nunchucks. So there was like a 10-year period where it was not standard to have all the buttons for all the players. And that was
genius.
Fucking terrible. Like, you didn't have 2 joysticks for all the players. Let me put it that way, for 10 years. And now we're finally at a place where it's like, okay, you got them all in there.
The company that knows the most about controllers. That's it. There was 10 years. Say 10 years again.
10 years. It was fucking killing me.
What's the best Nintendo controller?
The GameCube.
Probably. Well, I haven't really used the Pro controller, but probably the GameCube.
Either the GameCube or the Pro controller. Let's put the GameCube controller aside. So their best recent controller, and arguably their best controller, is just a clone of a standard controller.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a flat Xbox controller.
It tells you that they shouldn't be making any crazy changes.
Like, I think that Nintendo just misunderstand. There's nothing to revolutionize with controllers. They're fine. Like, there's really no difference between an Xbox One controller and an Xbox 360 controller, other than an Xbox One controller is like more premium. Like, it's weightier. The triggers are a little nicer. It just feels a little better, but it's fundamentally the same controller. We've cracked the code. It's done. It's over. It's fine. Just do this.
I think
we don't need a new one.
What's especially telling is even VR controllers are vaguely similar to like an Xbox One controller split into 2. And they work pretty damn well. Vaguely similar. There are differences, but like, you got your 2 sticks.
Yeah, but you have 4 buttons.
You got your buttons. You got your triggers.
And in that orientation, like, hypothetically, Xbox controllers are like fairly scientifically designed to actually fit how a hand is shaped when you play modern video games, right?
Yeah.
So, like I don't know what else needs to be done.
Well, okay, so I guess this question might be not necessary, but is there anything you guys have wished for in a modern controller? Like a cup holder? I don't know. Like
a kazoo.
Something to do with my other fingers would be nice. Now that VR is doing all that shit,
yeah, so the Steam controller, and we can talk about if that's a good thing or not, has paddles for your pinky and your ring finger that you can hit on the bottom of the controller.
Well, but like, hear me out on this. That might bridge the gap for VR games that are looking to be successful, but people, inherently get sick off of it. Like, if you could play a VR game in 2D with like having the control of your hands, that would be pretty damn good.
Yeah.
That would like if you could play a game where you could pick something up by how you touch the controller, and it was like gripping an object, like you had to let go of your fingers to throw it. Like,
that's
I don't
what
know.
You're saying.
If you want to make a breakthrough VR title, you want to support a controller like that. I'm just saying.
That would be cool. I think Nintendo already revolutionized the controller in a silent way, and I don't think they need to do any more. And what I mean by that is they took part of the Wii that kind of worked, and it now exists silently in the Switch as motion controllers do exist. So now you have 3 points, like you have 2 joysticks and you have motion. And I don't know about you, Jeremy, but at least in Zelda, I use the motion for aiming and it works great.
I hate it.
Okay, you hate it.
Dude, when you're playing
I shut it off
games,
immediately.
When you're playing video games, you want to sit on your fucking couch and with your hands on your lap and play video games. You don't want to be waving shit around and standing up and all this shit. Like,
because if you
go ahead, Jay.
Well, because if you got the motion controls on when you're aiming at Zelda, like you accidentally move your hand and like the fucking bow and arrow is going everywhere. Like it's just not. It's intuitive, but it's not like fun. I find.
Is there anything that you want, Jeremy?
It can be. I want the Joy-Con to not exist anymore.
A built-in fan, like those GameCube controllers, so your hands get cooled down.
Yeah.
I have one of those.
If they made like a modern one and it was small and it actually worked,
it's very loud.
Like that would be intense.
That'd be cool.
That would be intense. Okay, last question. Do we think this is kind of all just talk? Like, was Miyamoto just too drunk and he shouldn't say?
I mean, you said he was drunk, right?
No, he wasn't drunk.
Was that a joke?
No, that was a joke.
You said he was drunk like 3 times.
Yeah, I thought he was actually.
No, he wasn't drunk. That was a joke.
He was in a stupor earlier.
Lost
in a drunken stupor. The president of Nintendo.
That's
like,
what he said.
It is. It is what he said.
Do you think this is like just, you know, this is an early R&D and it's not going to amount to anything? Do you think he's just saying it to say it, like for the shareholder? Like, what do you think?
They're going to come out with something that's so ridiculous that nobody's going to want to buy it. Like, because the fundamental thing is like you can only go so narrow with this fringe thing. Like, because eventually someone's going to be like, I'm just going to buy my kids a fucking VR. And then we'll just all be plugged into the Matrix, but that's another story for another time.
Is Nintendo keeping us out of the Matrix? Comment down
below. No, they're not. They're gonna come out with something. They're gonna come out with something that's like, this is the Wii 2.0. Like, it's the next.
No, they'll call it the Wii 2.
No,
stop.
You know what I'm saying?
Stop,
like, it's gonna be. Gonna be like the Wii was in like 2007 when it was like the biggest thing on the block, and that's what they're gonna want it to be. And they're gonna come out with something like that, and everybody's gonna be like, "This is fucking shit."
Stop.
And nobody's gonna buy it, and they'll have poured tons of R&D into it, and it's gonna be disastrous.
You're hurt.
I kind of agree with that.
Oh my god.
You can only push the mold so far.
Because here's the thing, like, I stand by this very strongly. If the Switch didn't have really a great lineup of first-party titles, which it has, right? If it had a lackluster library, like, no one would play the Switch.
Shit.
The Joy-Cons are awful. Like, I know that, like, you use them, Chris, and they're okay for very simple games if you're playing them, like, you're detached and you're on the couch. They're, like, fine. But for any game that requires any dexterity at all, I literally find them unusable. Like, I won't play. I've been playing a lot of Hollow Knight. If my Pro Controller dies, I just have to stop playing.
You poor thing.
Well, my point is that they haven't made, like, I would argue they haven't made for a controller that is intended to be the primary controller that goes with the system. I don't think they've made a good controller, arguably, since the GameCube, maybe ever. Like, their controllers are just bad. And every time they're like, what if we put an infrared light that measured the distance between your forehead and the controller, and then if you brought it up to your forehead, Link will jump twice. Like, that's what they're going to do, and it's going to be terrible, but they might have really good first-party games, and then we'll all just ignore it. Or, like, look at the DS. All the features that were never used, that they just threw in there, but, like, no one bought the DS for that. You just ignored it and tolerated it and played Pokemon, and it was fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was.
What do you think, Mr. Optimus? Like, do you think it's gonna be great?
Dude, as long as they keep all the buttons, I don't give a fuck. Like, as long as I get my 2 sticks, my 4 face buttons, my 2 triggers, and maybe a D-pad, which the fucking Switch doesn't even have. It has a fake D-pad. I'll be fine. Like, just
the next Nintendo controller will be made of all glass.
Won't have any joysticks.
It'll have no joysticks. It'll have only one button on the front.
Cost $100 a pop.
No, it'll cost $500 a
Yeah,
pop. It'll
like-
be available in rose gold.
Honestly, I think the Wii bullshit would be a lot better if it just had a joystick on the Wiimote, and so like you get 2 joysticks basically. I think it would be a much more tolerable controller, but we'll see what happens. The thing is, it's ultimately, I don't see Nintendo going back to dedicated handhelds and consoles, so I think whatever it's going to be in this hybrid form. And I think that kind of limits them and how crazy they can get, but we'll see.
Just make the Game Boy again. Like, just make the fucking Game Boy again. The whole thing. Restart the production. Make all the Game Boy games and the Game Boys.
I bet
And
we'll get a
people
Game
will
Boy
fucking
Classic.
buy them.
Bet we'll get
Right. Not a Game Boy Classic. Make the real fucking thing. They
I don't
own
think
it.
we'll get
They
that.
can do whatever they want. Like, this is... You can only push the envelope so far.
Yeah. Well, I think we're controllered out.
We're controlling out.
Probably, yeah.
Good old Miyamoto. All right. What should our viewers tell us, Brian? What do we need to know from them?
If you're thinking that you just play games with your mouse and keyboard these days and you don't give a damn about controllers, go ahead and hammer your thoughts and feelings on that down in the word box. And while you're at it, why not throw us a sub? Because like Chris said, we are doing a ton of giveaways here on the Cohesive Friendship Unit situation. And if you subscribe, you could be automatically entered in to win one of those great prizes that were given out here on the Cohesive Friendship Unit channel. And, if you watched this far, you probably liked it. So throw us that sub, throw us that like if you liked the video, and smoke them if you get them, guys. That's all from me tonight, Chris.
Thank you, Brian. Catch you guys next time.